Cool. Hi, everyone. It's interesting that you guys should say that you're doing podcasts and so on together, because that happens all over the world, and it's such a great thing to do. It's such a good thing to join each other and just help, amplify voices and talk and investigate. I think the beautiful thing about podcast as a medium is that you can just go full length and not really worry about, getting everything done in 15 minutes or 5 minutes or 4 minutes, as we are with our videos, but for different purposes. And certainly to link those out, guys, from the listings and from your profiles, I think, always a good thing, isn't it? If we're cycling people through in terms of traffic, it's great to be able to have those extra elements. And vice versa, from your podcast pages, obviously cycle people back into your Elevate listings. All right, we've got a couple of important things to cover. I feel like we're rounding out your positions, and we're really good to go. We've got just to sort of summarize the whole the whole sort of market-facing offer that you now have, or certainly will have shortly once we get your videos loaded and various other things. We are marketing centrally by enterprise sales. We are also have successfully put together our strategy for lead development for you individually, which I want to go into. We're successfully working on lead gen and lead development using Google Ads and LinkedIn Ads. And all of that traffic is cycling through your listings and Elevate generally. Each one of the LinkedIn Ads and Google Ads uses something called remarketing, which takes all the traffic that has previously come to Elevate and kind of pokes them in the ribs and reminds them about us on a regular basis. So each of you have an ad on LinkedIn, and over the next month or so, we'll see the traffic going to your pages and qualified leads coming from those LinkedIn ads. A qualified lead is somebody who wants your specific listing. They're triggered by the listing itself. It's the sort of point between the awareness of who you are and the sale. And with a qualified lead, I make a personal introduction. Hey, Carol, this is so-and-so. They've provided their information. They want to talk to you specifically about your listing. Okay. An unqualified lead is somebody that we reach out to introduce you and say you would like to talk with them to discuss your specialism, your subject matter expertise, and draw from them further information. Now, you might think that qualified leads are better in terms of closure rate and dollar value. So far, we've experienced the exact opposite. An unqualified lead, which we introduce. Here comes Ruth, she's finished her painting. Yeah. An unqualified lead, just let it come in. Hey, Ruth.
Hi, Ruth. Hi, Robert. Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
Hi, Ruth.
No worries. We're just going to crack on while I've still got my stream of conscious. So an unqualified lead will allow you to develop what I believe is missing from all of your propositions. Everybody wants what you have. And in fact, in large numbers, when I look at each of you, Mark, John, Carol, Mike, Ron, Ruth, all of you have what thousands of people want in the world. The piece that is missing, which can be completed and filled by Zoom, and only Zoom in a digital form, is trust, empathy, and engagement. Mark will remember this from early days. Actually, what we want to happen is you have a constructive conversation with a decision maker in an organization about your subject matter expertise. And I'm going to get them for you. I'm happy to say I've got 20 or 30 in the last 7 days. And we'll talk about the approaches that we're making to those actual meetings. We've got one for Intel for Gina Longo in the United States today. Got several for Ron, Steve Grace, Mike, and others. John, I've got a bunch that I've got to introduce for you today. The fabulous thing about this unqualified lead is that we know how it generates business. And I've done this over the last 6 months successfully, and it's something that's really kind of proprietary to us. What I do is I reach out to a chief executive, senior vice president, decision maker of an organization that is somewhere between the sweet spot of 50 to 500 staff, where they don't have a institutionalized training established training process. They don't have a training development director. They don't have event planners and so forth. And those chief executives still have that decision-making capability. All of them, in my view, need what you have, all of you. And it's a question of their awareness of you, trust, empathy, engagement. And once that goes through, what happens is I send a note and I say, for Ruth, which would be factually correct, Ruth, hey, I'd like you to meet Ruth Oliver. She's researching some work for a book. She's also working on a series of workshops. May I make a personal introduction? She specifically talks about, and for Steve Grace yesterday, it was, for John Carroll, high-performing teams. John's researching high-performing teams. He's researching his modality in delivering high-performing teams education. Can I make a personal introduction? In roughly 10% of cases, I get a, sure, go for it. Because I have a network of 30,000 directors and senior vice presidents and so forth, which is kind of, with that secondary network added to that, it's 7 figures. So it's enormous. And it sort of regenerates itself. So I'll get roughly 10% response. Sure, make the introduction. I'll pick out one of those, throw a few out that are not precisely what we want. You've already got somebody who is amenable to talking and making a decision about wanting to work with you. The meeting that follows, excuse me, is a listening meeting where you're saying, John, high-performing teams, I want to understand how you're developing your teams. And you're effectively researching, refining your art. This is not about sales. You'll be delighted to say here. There's no selling, because we can do that in the background subtly. Because we own that contact, we can respond to them after this conversation. If the conversation goes gangbusters, as we say over here, ballistic, beautiful, loving, then you might get to the point where, you know, before the end of a call where you say, well, look, let's try this out. Let's get to this workshop. Let's get to this, and or they volunteer themselves. But the issue is that where we've come to now, in the end, at the sort of the point where we have everything ready. You have a listing, got a video, you've got your profile organized, we've got ads running on that profile. This lead generation is kind of like, for me, the missing piece. And the final piece that we put together, I subtly say, I'd really like to introduce Carol Cook. This is Carol's Elevate profile. Link, full stop. Don't talk about what Elevate is. That's it. Carol's researching, and she's developing the certain ways of delivering. May I make you the introduction? And off we go. You guys organize a meeting that works for you, a time that works for you. And over a 30 to 40 minute period, this happens. I feel I know you as friends and we haven't met physically. So this happens because they just look at this. You're framed perfectly, all of you. It's about here. I should be a bit lower. Mike is always getting me up on that. Better lit, but it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Mike's a great example. Ruth's perfect. 30 minutes of that, and it doesn't matter if you talk about you know, what's on their shopping list. They're starting to empathize with you. The human instinct is just developing trust and empathy, and also a shared love of this subject matter, because they've said yes to talk about the subject matter. So the next step is just a really small step, which is, well, let's go, you know, and we can take that after that initial call. But you've just done the trust, empathy, engagement. You've done the difficult piece by sharing knowledge together. I had a chat with John, Mike and Ron over the last few days. And we kind of thought what we should do is just really, really specifically say, you know, this is the antithesis of sales. In fact, if I want to sort of say what I want to do in life, it's not be the sales guy. I just want to connect people who need each other. And I'm passionate about it and emotional about it because, you know, it really is something that requires sort of just sophisticated interaction. And that's that, and it's done. Now, we've done this and it's created tens of thousands of dollars worth of income simply because people just want to take those next steps. And so what I would suggest is that's what we do with you, Mark and Ruth. You kind of put your hand up or down in terms of accelerator or brake pedal in terms of how many you do want, but I have a capability of delivering those to you. One a day, one a week, whatever you want, however you want them. If you can take the cadence and the frequency, I think it makes you it opens you up to knowledge from people that you would not have met before. I will only introduce you to people who are decision makers and capable of making bookings, you know, full price. So what do you think about that, Mark or Ruth or Carol? Because I haven't really spoken to you about that before.
Robert, can I just ask, are you serious that you could actually go to that level of frequency, one a day?
Where are we, Mike, in terms of number of introductions that we've engineered? Mike?
For everybody else, I did it a little bit differently, but you can do it because I sent out 1 day's worth of ads on LinkedIn. Robert was helping me with it. And I sent it out to 90 something, 94 people, whatever it was. I got 15 out of 94, which is about 15% return that sent messages back to me. Out of those 15 that sent back to me, 50% of them won appointments. And
Yeah, so
I had my first appointment last night. Now, let me just explain this. I'm going to put a little joke at the beginning of it, just so you understand. I haven't been dating for many, many years because I have the girlfriend I live with. But last night I got stood up and had a blind date. Let me explain. Appointment was at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock came. Nobody's online. Nobody's there. Nobody's there. I waited a whole half an hour online waiting for her to show up. Didn't show up. At 6:35, she sends me an email and says, Michael, I'm very sorry. I thought you were going to call me by telephone. I forgot that it was by Zoom. So she stood me up. But she says, when can I get in touch with you? When can we do it again? And I said, how about 7? She says, fine. So at 7, she shows up. So I got stood up at the beginning. And when she shows up, her camera doesn't work. So it's a blank screen, but I can hear the audio. We have a conversation. So I had a blind date. So you can see I got stood up and had a blind date both in one evening. Not a good beginning. That was not a good beginning, but the ending was very good. We talked for half an hour. She is the CEO of a retirement community home where I'm trying to get into. She is the decision maker. I listened to her talk about the problems that she has, and I threw out my 5 topics, not topics, but 5 elements of active aging. And each one of them she nailed. She says, yes, we need that. Yes, we need that. Yes, we need all 5 of them. So we're at the point now, I told her I was going to write an article in LinkedIn, and I will tag her to that article so that she gets credit in LinkedIn. Her name's going to appear that she's had something to say. So it's going to give her a little bit of notoriety, which is going to make her feel good. As we close, I did not ask for a sale. She says, Michael, if there's anything I can do to help you in the near future, she says, please contact me. I'd like to talk to you more about this. End of conversation.
Right. Well done. On your second date, maybe you can actually get a visual with her. What's her
I
name?
hope so. I'd like to see her, but I didn't get a chance to. So
You're exchanging notes. You know how lovely. It's a beautiful thing. I just
I think it's
hesitate to
animal
say
magnetism.
it's a chief executive of a retirement community Mike's trying to get into. Just qualify that. He's not trying to get into the retiring community. He's trying to get a relationship with the chief. Anyway, you know that, right? Okay, it's early. So the answer to Mark's question is that I asked Mike, because Mike and I are in a similar time zone. We're in Europe, Middle East, and Africa together, I guess, technically, or maybe Eurasia, Mike. But he helped me with some of the mechanics, because I've been doing this for quite some time. And I just wanted to make sure I use Mike as a guinea pig to check. Have you got to go?
no.
John, are you okay?
No, I'm good. Sorry, I've got a little fly buzzing around me. I'm just waving away.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you can
Hopefully
see I'm
not a
attentive.
tsetse fly.
See I'm attentive.
Yeah, as long as it's not a tsetse fly, I'm happy.
Anyway, I've used this, and it seems like, you know, even with voice, you get that the empathy starts to come through. But so we're there. I don't want to use this dating analogy, but I'll flog a dead horse. The second date, obviously, Mike's now not playing hard to get, but he's just going to stay. It's just going to sit for a while. If Mike, what I do is I record these conversations and I say so, and I say I'm writing an article. And I do so. And when I write that article, I link the individual and I say thank you. And I actually talk about that person and I quote that person, and they absolutely fall in love with me and with the process. And that has generated $50,000, $60,000 worth of business. I can qualify that. One of those was a guy from Penn State University who's now just continues to proliferate because they just can't believe their luck. isn't this great? We've got access to all these people. We spend $1,000 a time on a 30-minute workshop. The people are delighted because they're just, blah, blah, blah. We've got one today. Dan speaking to Florida Chamber of Commerce leadership, Florida Chamber of Commerce webinar. That came from exactly the same process. I spoke to Katie. She's a senior vice president, Florida Chamber of Commerce. We had a good chat. She happens to be a cyclist as well, Carol. She had a crash. I compared notes with mine, my broken hand, and we compared scar tissue. Just got to know each other. Exactly.
Just to clarify, Robert, you didn't, when you found out she'd had a crash, go out and have a crash. You actually had a crash beforehand.
No, I wouldn't go. Well, I'd go almost that far for you, Mark, for business, but I just, as cyclists, you always hit the dirt at some point. Anyway, beautiful relationship follows, and we're now, at least $30,000 worth of revenue that's coming through from 2023, and some of you guys being selected for those particular processes. The whole point is, why should I just continue doing this myself? It's so much better for you to get out and get airplay with these people and channel them as your own leads and opportunities. So Mark, on a weekly basis, I can give you one a day. And I think what will happen is I'll make those introductions on a one day of a week, and then you can process them through, get the appointments. Now, that's going to generate a meeting at some point, and you'll have that interaction, and that interaction will generate business. At the very least, it will generate goodwill, because, this person, what's her name, Mike?
Carla,
for example. Carla's going to be linked from Mike's article about active aging on LinkedIn. She's going to love that, and she'll share it with her active aging community. So at the very least, you're going to get amplification of your message as the thought leader. But I think it's going to turn into business. I love it because it is just sophisticated.
Can I interrupt for just a moment, Robert? I've got two more tonight. I got another one Friday. I got two more for next week. That rounds out my 5 that I'm going to have. And that's just from one day's send out of messages on my part, just one day. And I have already got 5 on my calendar for these interviews. So.
Yeah, we actually also did, we used a bit of software, and Mike helped me with the send out. Then I realized, Mike said to me, why should I do all this when I'm paying you to do, Mike is a very direct guy, which I love. It's like, you've got a point, I guess. And actually, it doesn't necessarily matter terribly. I thought that Mike, reaching out to Mike's second degree community would generate more sort of fruitful interaction, but actually, I can get a better rate than 10% because I'm saying I'm working with Ruth Oliver. Ruth Oliver is an expert in wellness. She's developing a number of approaches on this from her book, blah, 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 whatever. May I make a personal introduction? And with that sort of formal Britishness or whatever it is, they say, yes, I'll be delighted to have that introduction. Thank you very much. And then I can talk about you and your greatness, Ruth, rather than you self-deprecating and sort of saying, hey, can I? And I think comparatively, it's just slightly better that I do it. And of course, Mike's right. What are you paying for? Hopefully lots of great information and business and so forth, and connections and so on. But I think each one of these interactions is going to be vital. Now, 7 o'clock, I've got to get on. When you do have these conversations, I'm jumping to the conversation that you do have. Do please ask questions, provided that the love is there, around questions such as, Ruth, you just happened to be in the center of my screen. You could say something like, Now, when we talk about modality, how do you feel about how do you consume this kind of learning in your organization? Are you bored of virtual? Do you only do it in person? Have you ever tried sort of hybrid solutions, e-learning? What's up and down? And then actually what I'd like to do after that is kind of scorecard that with you. So informally, let me know. Because again, I think Mark and I had this chat a couple of weeks ago. We've got to listen to that. We have got to listen to that. Because I have this kind of sort of, I don't know, obsession with the virtual workshop. Because I think that, and I'm convinced that the live workshop is awesome. And I'm pretty sure that that is correct. But I don't think they know it yet. The majority of people, it's a bit like Apple when suddenly they produce this iPad and say, what on earth do you do with that? You eat your dinner off it or something? I don't know. What is it? And then all of a sudden, we've all got one. I do believe that the virtual workshop now is ripe and will burst onto the scene because it's sort of short, sharp information. You know, and if that conversation goes well, Ruth, you know, yeah, you know what, we're, you know, or badly or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's not well or badly. It's like, yeah, you know, we're just bored stiff of Zoom. Fair enough. We have an e-learning program, but nobody uses it. Okay, well, that's interesting. You know, all of those things are interesting. I think e-learning is boring and tedious and asymmetrical and dull. I think this type of interaction is fantastic. You know, I look forward to these sessions every week. I love seeing your faces. I think this process that we're having now is incredibly valuable, certainly to me, in terms of the information that we get back. So I'd like that. I'd also will ask you, how good was it? And summon your inner Mike. Tell me the truth. Say it sucked. I get WhatsApps from Mike saying, don't like this. I want it like this. Summon your Mike. Good. Not quite. Nudge me in the right direction, okay? So we get them in the right direction. Had this woman from Amazon this morning.
Have a drink. Have a drink. Take a moment to get a drink. You got a water or a coffee or something there in front of you. Get a drink.
Thank you. So he looks out for me, though. You can tell he's not just critical. I had this woman from Amazon come this morning. So I'd be delighted to meet Gina Longo, who's another member of ours. I have to tell you, I can't represent Amazon in any way. I can't do this. I can't give any opinions on Amazon's behalf. Okay, well, maybe we'll throw her back because, you know, it'd be nice to have a conversation with someone from Amazon, but if she can't represent Amazon in any way, shape or form, make any decisions on behalf of Amazon, it's a nice shiny label, but she's over the side. Keep thinking about lobsters. You know, you have those guys have the measuring things. Yeah, no good. Yep. He's in. No good. A senior vice president from Intel.
What was her intention for having a talk?
I sent a note out on Gina's behalf saying, Gina, one of the first female civil aviation pilots for American Airlines. She's researching, working on her workshops and her delivery. Delight to talk to you. And I specifically narrowed my target audience to be those people who'd be interested in wanting to have that discussion. But I want a decision maker, Mark. So, you know, as such, she isn't. And so on and so forth. I could go on and on and on. And Ron, we've got a few, haven't we? What have you got in your?
Yeah, I mean, I'm connected with a law firm in Chicago, which looks interesting. And he's written a book about startups that have a mission to change the world. And this is was a great. That's not the right name of the book. I've already downloaded it on my app. But anyway, that was good. And there's a guy in. Anyway, there's a few that have come through that have been really interesting. I must say, I've been taken by it all, and I've got some stuff lined up to talk to people, which start a conversation. Which,
forgive me.
Yeah, no.
So I've got half a dozen for Steve Grace as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and keep up this cadence, Mark. I think it's important for you guys to be able to take these relationships forward, and also just take it here. Keep your ears open. Just what is it that keeps you up at night is a great question for me, for a chief executive or for a decision maker. What is the things that you're really struggling with? And actually, that's a really nice, magnanimous question on behalf of all of us, because actually it could be, our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy sucks. We've got, legal issues around that, and blah, blah, blah. Well, in which case, sometime down the track, we've got an opportunity to introduce that person to a dozen or so diversity, equity, and inclusion specialists we have. So keep developing that, enjoy them as they come, and I'm assuming that you're all okay with making those introductions on that basis. Yeah.
Can I make a comment? I don't know what Ron is doing with the people he's contacting, but for me, before I have a meeting, I write down 4 questions specifically that I want to ask. I write that down, and I make sure during a half-hour conversation, I ask those 4 pointed questions, not necessarily in a specific order, and not necessarily at the beginning or the end, but I blend them in so that I can get, and that's what's working for me.
Are they the same question? Are they the same questions, Michael? Are they the same questions?
Same questions, but worded differently, because each one I have a meeting with, I go into LinkedIn, look them up, I find out where they're working now, where they worked in the past, where they went to school, find out a little bit of information about them, so I can word the questions a little bit more specifically towards them. But I talk about the same questions. I ask them about their career, how long they've been there, and if what they're doing. I want to know a little bit about them. People love to talk about themselves. So I ask them about them. Then I ask them about, does your facility, your company, whatever it is, do you do any training for the people who are the residents in your retirement home and for the staff? Do you do any training for them? Oh, yes, of course, da, 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 da. And then, do you normally do it online, or you have in-person speakers come to give that training? We use both.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just drop that subject and go to the next subject. I don't try and dig any deeper in that. She already told me both. And then I ask her, here are my principles that I'm thinking about writing about. How do you feel about these? About continue learning, about continue socializing, about continue exercising, about knowing that you have value. And each one of them, she just nailed. She said, well, I feel this and I feel that, and boom,
Perfect.
boom, 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 boom. So it works out well.
You've brought up a good important point. John, don't let me forget, because I want to get back into videos in just a minute. Mike's taking us back on an important tangent, which is when you do have these conversations, the interesting thing is not too long, but obviously there's a core that is really, really juicy content. And that juicy content you can use to your benefit by transcribing and publishing if you wish. But as a subject matter expert, it's quite an easy thing to do. And I'll tell you how. I say, I'm going to record this conversation. Is that okay? Generally speaking, everybody's pretty cool with that these days. I also say, I'm going to write an article about this. Or you might want to cut the corners and say, not write an article, but actually do a pod or a video interview instead. Depends on the target. But for what Mike's just said, I would use a AI transcriber, and to give you the body of the work. The great thing is to chip away when you're a sculptor, is to chip away at a body of work rather than to actually invent it. So this lady has already given you beautiful golden nuggets of quotes. And, you know, a short, punchy piece of work that says, you know, I spoke to, she's great, this is what she said, blah, 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 publishes an article and linked to that person. Great kudos. My favorite AI transcriber is otter.ai, which is free. And you can link that to Zoom automatically, or I use it on my phone.
Is that OTA?
Otter, as in the animal, dot
okay.
AI, OTTER.ai. So I put it on this one here. It's my son. Put it on there, set it going, and it basically will very cleverly and intelligently write down everything that's said. So just do it before the preamble. Go through. It's sort of, I suppose it's slightly unethical to do it unless you ask that you're going to do it, because you want to be able to do a nice quote for people.
Can I just ask whether you would recommend that we record or ask permission to record each of those conversations?
That's right. That's right. And I have not yet, but I will send you a sort of, here are the ground rules for these conversations, or here are the guidelines for these conversations. Okay, so you'll all get that, but I'll summarize what we've said today. And I do think it's like, look, if you're researching or they're helping to understand, it's okay, right? I mean, if that is all right, sure. And when you leave it at that, the article and so forth comes as a, you know, very pleasant little bonus for someone's day, doesn't it? And it shows that they will be super chuffed that their voice is being used as a subject matter expert. The next stage, the closed bit, is the easy bit, really. You've done the hard bit. I think, you know, a couple of weeks go by, if you didn't explicitly talk about the projects, the next stage, you say, look, let's try this workshop out with you guys. What do you think? Interesting you should say that, Mike, because we've been talking about you for the last couple of weeks. Can we get you back in? Blah, blah, blah. That's what happens. It's what happened with Carnegie Mellon, with Penn State, with the federal government, with the Florida Chamber of Commerce, with the Radisson in Dubai, and so on and so on and so on. You're now top of mind.
No,
Robert, just to go back to a little bit to what Michael was talking about, I have also been advised by, I can't remember who now, but I thought it was a good piece of advice, is to, before you speak to someone, or even before you do a keynote or a presentation of any sort, is to not just research the person, your key person, but also the organization and what's going on in that organization. And you might not mention anything because it might not be relevant. But if 100 people have just been made redundant, then that's relevant. So to have that top of mind and all of those kinds of things are really useful to have at your fingertips.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because I guess I know more about this than I'm sort of letting on, maybe. Because obviously I think we do that maybe naturally, or I assume that people do that naturally. And you know what's the beautiful thing that happens? You have this conversation, and they'll allude to something that might be a trend in their organization, that they're losing a lot of people, so with Intel. And you know, the fact that you can drop in that or preempt that, or also just, you know, where they went to school or the university or their alumni network and so forth, you get this kind of slightly raised eyebrow of recognition of the fact that, okay, she's done her homework.
Yeah.
Tick. It's
yeah. Can I just add in there, Ruth? I did a pretty big end of year keynote for New South Wales Transport Asset Equities Holdings. It was just a really bizarre government department. And I went through news articles. I looked up what was going on because their CEO had said they'd had a tough year. So I knew exactly what was happening. And when I did my keynote, which was at a picnic out in the middle of a park in Sydney, I hit on some of those things and it just went over really, really well. So it's really important to know exactly what the background of that company is and whoever you're talking to. And she had come from France and she'd been raked over the coals by the media. So I knew everything. I'd read the articles, not that I understood any of them, but because of what they were dealing with, but it worked out really well.
Yeah. I mean, you are the best in the world at what you do. So when this person is talking to you, you know, and you acknowledge their own organization and their own background and other bits and pieces, the kudos is fantastic. And that's how I'm introducing you. People who work with me are the best in the world at what they do. Right. I haven't got long. John Carroll.
Yeah, I know my inner marketer and brand and ad guy kicked in.
Okay, the video, you need to quieten that voice, John. The video piece, I think, is an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And what it's doing is a different job, but these people that you're going to be talking to, qualified and unqualified leads, are going to see it. Right? So it's your piece. The piece of resistance, someone said.
But looking at the
It's not the piece of resistance. Excuse me, what?
Looking at the one that John Doolittle did was really helpful.
Yeah,
Really.
John Doolittle has had millions of dollars of federal government money in terms of training, I think, to be able to deliver something. But he's also just comes across completely as he is. He's a great guy and really relaxed, as you are too. John, what he did was he answered the question, and it's almost like straight away he hit you with the key things about setting goals are stop. Not, if I could tell you all about goal setting, that would be fantastic. I might do, and I'm going to open the kimono at some point in the next 3 or 4 minutes, maybe, if you're lucky, or you might have to fill in a form, or you might have to go onto my website and pay $10,000, but I'm not going to tell you yet. If you go the latter route, your inner sales monkey, you'll lose everyone.
Yeah.
If you see the analytics in video, which you can do on Google, you see the number of people who are watching. 1 second, 2 second, boom, gone. And so the answer is one. If you ask me about goal setting, I want you to do this, and never give up. Stop. I'm John Carroll. This is my background. Zimbabwe, Army, wildlife. Now, let's get back into it. I'm going to get into it. So right at the beginning, here's the answer. I'm going to get into it. Here's my background. And then detail, detail, detail. Okay?
Yeah.
The second thing is, Steve Grace is listening to this. If you are Steve, sound is so important. Mike nailed it, has a Blue Yeti or whatever form of microphone, works perfectly. Mark's spent 2 or 3 years researching the art of television production and has done every single conceivable take and has nailed it. If you use the microphone on your laptop, it will never be that great. the richness of a Blue Yeti or a Rode clip-on or free. It's better that it's free and not sticking in your ear. I just want you to come across as the best person in the world for this particular subject area. Yeah.
Can I just ask Robert, closing, finishing up? I mean, I get, I've still got work to do on it, and we're going to review that, I know. But the problem and the answer, introduce who I am, and then go into detail. How do you finish?
Fade to black. And what I did with John's, as you saw, was I'll do that bit. To book Dr. Ron, go to elevate.ac, because if this video has gone, I wouldn't say viral, just gone on its own mission, that people might be watching it on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever else. So fade to back and bang, because then you're only responsible for that subject matter expertise. And John, I think when you look at a camera, sometimes the sales monkey will come to life, and it feels like it is. Every time I talk about wildlife, every time I look at you, I don't know why, it will come to life and then suddenly sort of take over. Not only, but also,
I'll put him away.
What am I going to do for you? And then suddenly, I don't know, even your voice changes. It's not your voice, one's voice. And it's like, just be the subject matter expert. Just be brilliant at what you're going to do. It's not easy. Go on.
No, I think I've done too many courses, and I actually don't like, I hate, as I think I said to you the other day when we were chatting yesterday, I actually hate being salesy. I really don't enjoy it. I hate doing that.
Yeah, well, shed it. We're not doing it. That's for somebody else.
A 30-year-old, our youngest son is 30, and he's a prolific social media advertiser and entrepreneur. And I have had it was actually painful at the time, but I'm really glad I did it. He told me to go and make 6 60-second videos on the 6 points of my workshop, and it was excruciating, but I did it. And he told me to, I think in the end he even stuck a picture of my best friend behind the camera, and he said, just talk to your best friend.
Mike's got a great little tip for that. I can tell he's just going to show you in a sec, but while Mike's preparing that, it's brilliant.
I take a picture of the person who I'm going to talk to, and I print it out. Then I put a hole right where their mouth is. I put that over the top of my camera so that you're looking at me through that hole. So when I'm talking to the person.
Yeah.
How about that for old school?
5 minutes of work. Five minutes you can do it. No problem. Very quick.
I like that.
That is brilliant.
One thing that's pointed out to me on the sales is how your tone changes, and people fed back. I'd be talking that, and then immediately I go to sales. You can tell my tone changed, and people are so alert to it, they cut off. So what's helped me is just trying to alert to keep it.
I think it's important that I'll summarize that in just a second, that concept in just a moment, because we've got 6 minutes remaining. I want to stay to time. And I want to publish this recording. Mark, it's not my personality type to do that, but I will try. John Carroll, I think the resolution of the camera requires that you backfill. I haven't backfilled today because, and you can see it shows because it's dark. And I normally have a box light about this big with an enormous, that big LED to fill that light behind me. I think what's perfect with Ruth, what's perfect with Carol, is that you have depth of field. It just makes you look more sophisticated. If you had a bit more light on that beautiful maroon background there, just a touch more, filling that back, then the depth of field comes through. And it just makes you come across more sophisticated. The camera you're using, Ruth is exceptional. What a difference 2 or 3 years makes. It's amazing. And just a stand Rode mic or similar, $20, $30, just gives you that sort of depth. This isn't plugged in, deeper sort of sound. I would choose a bit more depth of field, John.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're recording on, but it doesn't feel to me like it has the same kind of res. So Ruth is shooting, Ruth is broadcasting to us in HD. You're not. So double
That's
check.
interesting. I'm on a.
Ron, your
I'm on a
background's
Logitech-
perfect. The front light needs to be set a little bit better. Go on, John. Sorry.
No, sorry. I'm on a Logitech HD 1080 webcam.
And that's probably therefore I think it's because of the poor light that you have in the room.
Yeah.
It's not picking you out.
And there's no
Maybe
depth of
that's
field.
because
I mean,
the
I'm
backdrop.
actually in a very small room. The back of the room's right here. I can touch it.
Yeah. So maybe the
Yeah.
back, it's the camouflage again. I know it's your natural environment, but maybe rethink that just a slight.
Yeah.
Have another go. Ruth says
will.
Ruth is absolutely 100%. It is excruciating, but it's important.
No, it's good. And I do have a Blue Yeti mic. I didn't use it because everyone's always said, oh, the sound is so good through your webcam.
Yeah,
But I know it won't be the same as the Blue Yeti.
it's not as good as the Blue Yeti. Yeah. Summon your mic.
totally
I'm
take
summoning
that on
mine a
board.
mic about mics. It's not as good. Keep the sound crisp. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just say, Robert, something that I found on sound, which was staggered me, was I wasn't using a Blue mic, I was using System. They said, great, so I kept it. Then about after 15 minutes, they said, it's not working anymore. So I changed to the TV. They said, great, but after 15 minutes, that wasn't working. So I just changed back. So I didn't keep changing back. Whereas I think if I'd used a mic, I would have got through that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was staggered. I didn't understand it.
You've done so much complex technology innovation in TV production, Mark. I just I'm staggered by it. It's absolutely fabulous. Anyway, the end result that you have, 2 cameras, fantastic light and sound is really right up there. It's what you can do with this beautiful medium though is iterate improvement, right? Just if you feel when you summon the energy, because it isn't easy to do, and you feel like you want to have another crack, you can climb the stairs. Where Mark is now is kind of we've been working on this for some time. It's really cracked a fantastic shot, and what happened was we were producing that for the purposes of a kind of a masterclass, and really that's an interesting way of looking at it. Your 3 or 4 minutes are a masterclass in this particular subject area.
Yeah.
So Ron, don't close, just stop. Okay.
Ron, I think and John Doolittle finished. It was really nice. I think he just recapped his 3 points.
He actually went on to a salesy message, and I cut him off. I edited
did
it out.
he?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he
Right.
did
So,
say.
sorry,
but he,
can I ask where that video is? Is that on Elevate?
it's
his
on. Yeah. If you
profile?
look at if you search Doolittle.
Yep.
And look for his workshop. It's on there. It's also on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
And it's also therefore just gaining ground in owning that statement, goal setting. It's a blockbuster. You find yourself the keyword, own it, respond to it, and it will, thank you, John, it will pay you back, because we'll publish it on LinkedIn, we'll publish it on YouTube, it'll be there forever. And it will just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep driving traffic to you. Okay. Forgive me. I just need 2 or 3 more minutes, but just for two more minutes. The salesy thing is really interesting. I'd learned a lot from what we talked about today. I'm 100% certain that now we have the full spectrum together. It's all there. Make sure that your listing is bang on the button, not over long. Get those images beautiful, 660 by 440, which is about the proportions of the shots that you're looking at here today. Really nice saturated images, no stock, user generated content, honest, about you doing stuff. The video, absolutely 100% factual, bang on the nose. Here it is. This is what it's about. This is who I am, why you should be listening to me, because I am the best in the business. Next, here, and here are the points you need to remember. Stop. Equally, the message I sent out to these people about you is just no nonsense. Carol is the best in the business at this specific area. Carol wants to talk to you. You talk to them. You ask them questions. You publish that information if you wish. We follow up. They will come to you. You've broken the trust, empathy, engagement. You've got it. You've built a relationship that's yours. You respond to any of those other questions about keeping them up at night and saying, well, my group in Elevate are potential responders to those things. Just gather that information, share it with us, keep steering and nudging me in the right direction. I'll keep providing you with that information. But now you've got a place to land, I will say. Love to, and thanks for your note. I'm delighted to introduce Ruth Oliver. Ruth's Elevate profile is here. Stop. They'll then go to Elevate and go, oh, Elevate. Okay, interesting. Place for elite, blah, blah, blah. Introduce you, introduce the person, you get on, go for it. Factual, intellectual, passionate, share the knowledge. Don't go near the sales, okay? Get the monkey off the shoulder.
Yeah.
Let's not do it.
Stop doing sales and marketing courses.
Yeah, someone told me, someone told me sitting down is the new smoking the other day. I had to be in California. Sales is even worse. Hey guys, have a lovely day, evening,
Thank you.
night.
Thank
See you
you.
next week. Do come
Thank
back to me
you.
personally if you need any help. We're rocking it. We're going to have some cool results and good stuff to talk through next week.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Robert. That
Robert.
was so helpful. I'll
Yeah.
see you in a couple of
Bye,
hours.
everybody.
Okay. Take
Ron,
care.
Thank you.
Ron, I'll see you
Thanks,
tomorrow.
You guys.
everyone.
See you
Bye.
tomorrow. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Carol.
Good day.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.